There is this recurring attribute from college football coaches that I just frankly don't understand how it continues to happen over and over and over again and time again, where it becomes abundantly clear to anybody who's paying attention that a change needs to be made. And the only person who doesn't realize that is either the head coach or the athletic director. USC fired defensive coordinator Alex Grinch yesterday, probably 6 weeks after it should have. Everybody that followed college football, that paid attention to USC football, has known for a while that that was not working out and that there wasn't really a path forward for them to magically be really good on that side of the ball again under Alex Grinch. And I've shared before, I think if you know you need to do something eventually, you need to do it immediately. So was Lincoln Riley caught off guard that the USC defense was really bad? I would think not. That they've given up 267 points in their last 5 games or whatever the stat is. I mean, when you look through the USC numbers, it should not come as a shock that, hey, defensively, things aren't going real well right now. They gave up 28 to Arizona State, 41 to Colorado, 41 to Arizona, 48 to Notre Dame, 34 to Utah, 49 to Cal, 42 to Washington. At what point do you not look through those numbers and go, okay, we gave up 41 to Arizona State after giving up 41 to Colorado, after giving up 28 to Arizona State, after giving up 28 to San Jose State. What more do you need to see? It's not working, and that's okay. It is okay for it to not be working. But Lincoln Riley should have known, and essentially I think everybody sort of operates it like, okay, 1 loss we can come back from. 2 losses, you're done for. And so I guess I think, like, hey, when the second loss comes back-to-back to Utah, and you are now out of the college football playoff picture, how you then don't go, okay, our defense specifically, solely our defense, has taken us out of the college football playoff conversation. What more do you need to see? What more do you need to hear? Whatever. Back-to-back losses, like, that's it. We lost these games because we can't stop anybody. And then you keep the guy. Fine. Whatever the case. Okay, you've made that decision. I can disagree with you, but it's your program. Then the next week, you give up 49 to Cal. You win by 1 on a team you should dominate. Why? Because your defense can't get a stop. And you keep the guy employed. Then the next weekend, you lose to Washington. Why? Because you gave up 52 points. You can't get a stop. If you can score 40 in USC's losses this year, they scored 42, 32, and 20. Now, they just got beat up by Notre Dame. Just flat out beat up. And you'll have that. Okay? 1 loss, whatever. But their other losses, you score 32 points. 32 points should be enough to win you a game. Your third loss, you score 42 points. 42 points should be enough to win you a game if 32 is enough to win you a game. USC has access and resources to an abundance of talent and the ability to recruit at a high enough level that they shouldn't give up 41 points to Colorado, 41 points to Arizona, 49 points to Cal. It shouldn't happen. And when you get back-to-back weeks of scoring 41, how do you not go like, oh, you know what? Might be time. And when that happens, you then keep that guy employed for another month. It's malpractice. And I think we should start calling it out. It's the same thing with Kirk Ferentz at Iowa. I understand you have an allegiance to your son, but your son sucks at his job. Terrible. When Vegas is giving you multiple lowest points totals in modern college football history because your offense sucks that bad. Whether it's your son or not, don't you have to go like, well, hold on. Is there a better way we could do this? Could there be a better way we could do this? And basically almost threatened to retire because Iowa has the audacity to say your son who sucks at his job will not come back next year. Everybody in America has known that Brian Ferentz is not going to succeed at the, hey, you've got to average this amount of points throughout the season. Like, they had to get to 325 points this year. Like 25 points per game was what the 31, whatever that number equates to, is what they had to average. And they're, after 9 weeks, are at half of that. So it wasn't going to happen. And even if it did by some fluky miracle, the guy shouldn't keep his job because he's really, really bad at it. And you can't tell me that, college football is this, the business and all of those things that go into it. It's a business. It matters. We got to treat it like a business, whatever. And then when people suck at their jobs, be like, well, we can get this righted. You can't. Iowa's biggest point total this year is 41 against Western Michigan. Outside of that, it's 26. They have scored 20 points or less 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times in 2023. Now, I realize that I think there are 9 programs that are averaging 40 points a game, and I don't think Iowa's going to average, 40 points a game. But averaging more than 22 when you have the defense that they have, I don't think is a tall ask. But like Lincoln Riley and Alex Grinch, Kirk Ferentz has had to have known that his offensive coordinator, who happens to be his son, is a problem and that they can do better. And I don't understand. That one is a little bit different. Like, you're not going to fire your own kid. But you have to know, and if you know that person is not the best person for the job and is not living up to the expectations that you need, as difficult as that might be, you have to cut them loose. You have to make alternate decisions. You have to make difficult decisions. And I'm not ignorant enough to think that there are college football coaches who make difficult decisions day in and day out. But why? And I get that it's because these guys are people you grow to know and love, and they have families, and you don't want to see them without a job. And then Kirk Ferentz and Brian Ferentz, like, hey, honey, I'm going to fire our kid, is probably not a great, fun, enjoyable dinner conversation. But the options are fire our kid or I'm going to get fired. Because what do you do? Like, what are you devoting your life to if you're going to let your kid who sucks at his job torpedo your career aspirations? Like, why is Kirk Ferentz working like 70 hours a week before Saturday just for his kid to be like, okay, we're not going to be very good today? There's no point to that. And if you're going to toil away working your ass off just for your offensive coordinator to be really, really bad at his job, what are you doing? And I don't think that's outrageous to have that thought of like, hey, obviously offense is a struggle. We scored 0 points against Penn State. We scored 20 points against Iowa State, 20 points against Purdue, 15 against Wisconsin, 10 against Minnesota, 10 against Northwestern. Is that good enough? No. So 5 separate times in the 9 games you've played. And one could argue, I think this argument sucks, that, well, of course it's good enough. They won 3 of those 5 games. Right. Their defense is good enough that they could be 9-0 right now, maybe 8-1. I gave up 31 on the road at Penn State, where Penn State just beat the tar out of them. They should be 8-1 right now, and they're not. Iowa should be on the fringe of the those teams that are they should be in the Ole Miss category of just waiting for somebody to falter and hoping somebody loses a second time so we can sneak into the New Year's Six. Instead, all of the questions, all of the topics of discussion are, this guy sucks at his job. Why do you still employ him? And those aren't the only two. Urban Meyer did the same thing. It led to his downfall at Ohio State, where was Zach Smith worth the trouble for Urban Meyer? No, but he was blinded by this allegiance to a guy that he should not have had an allegiance to. And it just doesn't make sense to me. Maybe that's just, it's cold and crass on my part. You have one objective as a college football coach. People will tell you have multiple objectives. You don't. You have one: win games. Everybody looks past a whole lot of stuff if you're winning. You can be the biggest a-hole on the planet when you're winning. You can cheat your tail off when you're winning. But when you're losing, everything is exasperated. Everything. And so your sole focus should be on winning. And if somebody, whether it's your son or whether it's the grandson of your mentor or a close personal friend, is stopping you from accomplishing that mission, you have to cut them loose. And yet, every year we do this same song and dance where somebody, it becomes abundantly clear early in the season, this guy is not going to make it through the season. And then somebody that should be pretty good plays themselves out of that moniker because they refuse to do the things that are required for them to stay near the top of the mountain. I simply don't get it. Because I think Nick Saban, if the offensive line coach needed fired at Alabama at this point, and I don't know that some people would say, yeah, he does. If Nick Saban had a defensive coordinator like Alex Grinch or an offensive coordinator like Brian Ferentz, and I wouldn't be surprised if either one of them end up in Tuscaloosa with the Nick Saban School of Rehabilitated Coaches. The first time it's a problem, you're done. You're gone. Maybe the second time. But he's not going to let a bad offensive or defensive coordinator play him out of a college football playoff spot just because of blind allegiance. And I think that deserves some credit because so many other guys are willing to be in this situation where is 7-3 or 7-2, is that all that bad? No. There are dozens of college football programs who would kill to be 7-2 or 7-3. But at some places, you should have higher expectations than that. At some places, that standard should be higher than, well, we won, didn't we? Wow, you won a 15-6 game and a 10-7 game. If you suck offensively in 2023, it is a choice. And why Brian Ferentz has chosen to suck, I have no idea. It makes no sense to me why you would choose to be pedestrian at one of the 3 aspects of football. Doesn't make a lick of sense to me. But that is the choice that Iowa has made. USC made the choice to suck defensively. I don't know why you'd make that choice. And it's no secret. The results bear that out. And if you have a PhD in college football, which I think it's fair to say that Lincoln Riley has, that Kirk Ferentz has, that Urban Meyer had, how do you not see it, but everybody else does? It doesn't make sense to me. I don't know how you can get that blinded that those results don't just beat your eyes into a pulp, where Iowa scoring 24-20, 26-20, 15-10, and 10. How the head coach, who has been incredible at Iowa, doesn't go, oh, you know what? We really suck on that side of the ball. Or when you give up 41, 41, 49, 34, 52, you don't go, oh, you know what? We're really bad at defense. Maybe we've got to make a change. It doesn't compute to me. I just don't see how the most important, the highest paid, the prodigies of college football don't look at that and go, oh, well, this is really easy to see. And hell, it might be really easy to fix. But stepping out on that limb for some reason is so terrifying to so many folks. And I don't know that I'll ever understand it. That'll do it for today's episode of the Daily Huddle. We'll keep tracking the Michigan sign stealing allegation rumors. Supposedly something's coming down in 48 hours. I'll believe it when we see it. But we'll talk about it if it comes up here on the Daily Huddle on Saturday Glory. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you're getting all that great college football content we're pumping out here on the YouTube channel. If you're listening on the podcast, drop a 5-star review. It goes a long way in helping out the channel. We'll catch you next time right here on the Daily Huddle on Saturday Glory.